Roddy Popeye McLean's life reads like the ultimate pop thriller. A former mercenary turned Scottish gangster. A real estate tycoon whose empire spanned from the misty highlands of the British Isles to the sun-soaked plains of Africa, all the while cruising in a fleet of cars sleek enough to shame a luxury showroom. With 10 million tucked away in banks across the globe, his demise in 2004 came wrapped in a cloak of mystery, tangled with whispers of MI5 double cross and the Dutch mafia. This tale, as wild and twisted as any binge-worthy Netflix hit, demands a closer look. Buckle up as you plunge into an astonishing ascent and the shadowy fall of Roddy Popeye McLean. In '64, a 19-year-old Roderick McLean had already cut his teeth with the British Army in Kenya before diving headfirst into the maelstrom of the Congo as a mercenary, navigating the treacherous currents of counterinsurgency ops. The Congo, fresh from the shackles of Belgian rule since 1960, was anything but stable. Enter the Simbas, a band of Maoist militants who painted Eastern Congo red, carving out a chunk of the country as their own and declaring a communist haven in Stanleyville. Here the conflict was as savage as it was unforgiving, a veritable theatre of war where the worst of human depravity was on full display, a narrative chillingly captured in the book Cutthroat, penned by McLean's nephew. As the government clawed back territory, November 1964 saw the Simba rebellion crumble to dust. For someone like McLean, marinated in the harsh crucible of conflict, such proximity to violence could only harden the soul. McLean himself remarked that he had stared into the abyss of evil, becoming both the tormented and the tormentor, and yet his tears remained unshed. Back on London soil, McLean was slipped a cryptic note with a number, the key to his first dance with the shadowy figures of MI6. The debrief was shrouded in mystery, punctuated by pints in a pub and fleeting camaraderie. A wad of cash later, McLean was Edinburgh bound, his soul a little darker, his journey with espionage just beginning, and all while a young wife awaited his return. In '67, a mere 3 years after the Congo, 20-year-old McLean found the humdrum of civilian life stifling, until the past came knocking in the form of his old mercenary comrades from the war-torn jungles. One, now an enforcer for a notorious crime syndicate up in Newcastle, enticed McLean with a heist that promised a windfall of £8,000, equivalent to a hefty 200 grand today. Their mark, a bustling retail haven in Newcastle suburbs, codenamed Savills in McLean's memoir, perhaps a veil for the actual target. This was no amateur hour. These ex-mercenaries were lethal, their precision honed in conflict. The robbery unfolded with a terrifying force. They rammed the gates, shot a guard in the leg, silenced his Alsatian, and with a gun to his head, coerced the terrified office staff to surrender the cash. The chilling acts, though barbaric to any bystander, were just another day at the office for the men who'd seen and dealt far worse. The high of their success was fleeting, as betrayal struck. In a moment ripped from a gangster's worst nightmare, one robber fled with the loot, whilst McLean and the others torched their getaway vehicle. McLean's tale has them racing to a train station, fleeing to Scotland just steps ahead of the law. Time was ticking. They needed to find their treacherous brother-in-arms before the cash vanished for good. What followed, as McLean's narrative goes, is the stuff of nightmares. They cornered the traitor's girlfriend, extracting his whereabouts through means too vile for my narration. Then upon reclaiming their blood-stained bounty, the traitor met a gruesome end at the hands of the mercenary who brought McLean into the fold. The graphic details of those violent retributions are laid bare in McLean's book, beyond what can be recounted here. In the end, they each pocketed 2,500, 60 grand thereabouts in today's currency, a payout soaked in betrayal and brutality. Over the subsequent years, McLean kept a low profile, working the doors in Edinburgh's seedy pub scene, and even donned the uniform of a prison guard for a spell. It was in the early 70s, though, behind the quaint facade of a second-hand shop, that McLean's life of crime truly blossomed. Whispers of him being an informant swirled as crooked cops smoothed his journey from small-town wheeler and dealer to the high-stakes fencing world. His shop at 104 Lath Walk was the first step on a lucrative journey. McLean's stance on the informant talk? He'd never flipped for cash or played the canary, he claimed. But rubbing shoulders with the law? Absolutely. In his words, the police were the biggest gang in town, and befriending them was just smart business, though it was far from a walk in the park. Fast forward through 2 decades of shrewd dealings, and as the 90s approached, McLean sat atop a lucrative empire of property shops, brothels, jewellers, businesses stretching from Edinburgh to London. He was a kingpin, navigating the underworld with as much enthusiasm as he had the Congo Badlands. Money flowed like water. He lived large with luxury cars and a mansion complete with a pool. Yet he was always eyeing the next score. The adrenaline of criminal life was his addiction, eclipsing the contentment of his vast wealth. The thrill of the game, the lure of risk. It was an addiction he couldn't resist. McLean plunged into the perilous waters of arms and drug trafficking, dealing with Dutch mobsters and running ships, one ironically acquired from HM Customs at vastly cut price. In his book, McLean's nephew recounts tales of audacious arms shipments from Africa, encounters with pirates, and firefights, a veritable odyssey that, while gripping, bears the hallmarks of creative embellishment, with facts as elusive as shadows. The downfall of Roddy McLean is etched into the archives of public records and sewn into the history of HM Customs' dark past. In a tragic accident, a customs officer, Alistair Suter, lost his life during a botched interception of McLean's Morocco to Scotland run, laden with 3 tons of green. As the customs vessel closed in, chaos ensued. McLean's crew set the contraband ablaze, and in the ensuing panic, an officer met a grim fate between the colliding ships. In the aftermath, the gravel fell for the 8 men tangled in the web of Operation Balvenie, an international drug smuggling ring caught in the act. Lord Dawson, presiding over this landmark case, spoke of the valour of the customs official who had thwarted the import of 3 tons of Moroccan green, valued at a street price of 10 million. It was an operation shadowed by tragedy. The loss of Mr. Alistair Suter, the customs official, lent a grave air to the proceedings. To his family and colleagues, the judge offered condolences, acknowledging the pride they must feel for his bravery. The trial, one of Scotland's most prolonged and intense, spanned 55 days and drew to the High Court in Dunfermline a diverse cast from across the globe. 2 Scots, 3 Dutchmen, an American and a Londoner. They were met with the stern faces of armed police as they were ushered into the courtroom. Roderick McLean of Inverleith Row, Edinburgh, faced the harshest retribution. 28 years for conspiring to smuggle the drugs, and an equal term for setting the smuggling vessel ablaze, recklessly endangering the lives of those aboard the customs cutter. Gary Hunter, a 34-year-old professional diver and McLean's housemate, was handed a 24-year sentence for his role in the nefarious scheme. The others entangled in the attempted smuggling plot received their own share of the court's severity. Roderick McLean Jr., Roddy's son, 30, was given 12 years. Brian Silverman, 45, from London, faced 14. Louis Hoekstra, 57, and Jan van Ries, the Dutch end crime bosses, 57 and 52 respectively, each received 14 years. Jan's son Ronnie, a 29-year-old American, got 10 years, as did his cousin Hendrik van Ries. Silverman's absence was noted. His courtroom outburst against Lord Dawson had him ejected, leaving the court with echoes of his defiance as he drew parallels between the judge and the infamous Judge Jeffreys of the 17th century. It's important to note that Silverman won an appeal against his sentence, and McLean Jr. had his sentence cut. Fast forward to Roddy McLean's prison shuffle, which saw him bounce between prisons before landing in Ley Hill in 2003 with its revolving door for absconders. And on one fateful town visit to Bristol, McLean played his final escape act as he absconded like many before him at the open prison. Despite a past drenched in wealth and criminal connections, the law didn't even break a sweat searching for him. When they did amp up the effort, it was too little, too late. By then, he was already in cahoots with MI5, or so the reports suggest. Here's where it gets very strange. He starts a new life as a caretaker in the Argo B&B Hotel, and just like that, 4 days into the gig, he's dead. An ex-inmate couldn't fathom why McLean, with all his riches, would skulk around London when paradise beckoned. His death, shrouded in mystery, had police chasing their tails, courtesy of a false identity trail. Fingerprint checks, the last resort, finally lifted the veil. But how did a man of McLean's stature and means end up a penniless caretaker? And is there more to his death than meets the eye? The official verdict was heart attack, but there are many believe that he was silenced by the Secret Service or former criminal associates. It seems very strange a high-risk criminal like McLean was downgraded so quickly within a few years to an open-style prison like Ley Hill. It just doesn't make any sense. In McLean's court case, he was outed as a paid informant, a claim he denies, but it would seem he had help from somewhere in regarding to his prison risk category downgrade, although I believe that would be over the heads of mere police officers. It would have been authorised by someone with much more power than the police. But with no evidence either way, it's left for you, the viewer, to form your own opinion. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and hit the notifications. Have a great evening, and get your comments and let me know your thoughts on it.